What up, everybody? And welcome back to the inaugural episode of the the Sound of Violence podcast, daily MMA podcast recap. I gotta tighten up that fucking phrasing. This is gonna be the first of many, hopefully, episodes during the fucking quarantine that everybody's under. I'm hoping just to kind of give a daily recap on what I'm listening to, because shit, I listen to podcasts every day, and I know a lot of people out there are trying to find good podcasts. Sometimes you gotta go digging, especially in the MMA podcast sphere, day to day. So I'm hoping this just can become kind of a collective discussion about the shows that we're all enjoying and which ones everybody should check out. So please feel free, if you're in the chat, feel free to drop any podcasts that you thought were good this week. I'm hoping to keep these around like 15 minutes or so. And who knows, I might have Chris jump on for occasional ones as well. But I basically just want to keep almost like a journal of what I'm listening to daily in hopes that it helps you guys listen to some cool shit throughout the week. So we'll start off by saying, since this is a Sound of Violence production, and it's been a rough fucking couple of days. I don't know if you guys noticed, right before I started this, I actually finally got our podcast that we recorded on Saturday posted. It's been a crazy fucking couple of days for me. But luckily things seem like they're getting better. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I had some super unfortunate stuff happen in the last couple of days, but everybody seems safe, and hopefully things will turn around. But on a brighter note, actually on a similar note, I am cracking open this beer from Hoof-Hearted Brewing. That's Hoof-Hearted Brewing. I feel like I should really show that to the camera. Also, these are all going to be YouTube exclusive, so just, I don't know why, just because I'm too lazy to have to cut them and upload them. But I'm having the Are We Having Fun Yet beer from Hoof-Hearted. Seemed appropriate. Also, I'm getting over a cold. Fortunately, I got it third party confirmed. It's not the fucking, I don't got the Rona yet. So that's good news. I do have a cold though, so that's not great. But let's see how this beer is first. Yep. That is definitely old. I was worried about that. So there's no date on this thing. And yeah. It seems oxidized as fuck. Yeah. Overall, it's fine. They call it a party pale ale. Double dry hopped. And yeah, it's definitely seen its fucking day. I would guess this is at least 6 months old. That's kind of disappointing. I do have some more beers back there, so maybe I'll grab one later. I did change the setup in the room a little bit. Again, long story. Maybe we'll get into it one day. But, okay, so I just want to go through the podcasts I listened to today. I'm even going to go through them in the order I listened to them, since why not? So the first show I listened to this morning was Severe MMA, episode 253. Really liked this one a lot. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a big Sean Sheehan fan, and maybe it's because I really enjoy Sean and Graham's take on a lot of things, especially with all the coronavirus stuff and with people being stuck inside. Anytime anybody's clowning on mainstream media for their terrible production values, shouts out to Howard Stern, who not even, 2 years ago was shitting on people for like, oh, what are you going to do? Have a podcast and post it to your website? Cut to Howard Stern in his house, essentially doing a podcast, and no one can actually work any of the fucking controls. I found that real fucking cute. So it was fun hearing them make fun of that. I'm not going to do like full recaps on these episodes. I just kind of want to talk about what I listened to. But yeah, I really like Severe MMA. I thought it was a fun one for sure. Here, let me pop out chat so that if anybody drops in, I see what y'all are saying. So let's see. Yeah, Severe MMA is it's one of those shows. I normally don't listen to it on Mondays. I normally save it for Tuesdays, I want to say. I don't know why. I guess a lot of times on Mondays, it takes me about halfway through the day until I actually get to MMA stuff. Oh, actually, I should say also off the top, the first thing I actually listened to this morning was the It's the Real Quarantine radio episode, which was, here, let me look it up. Who did they have today? They had, for episode, that one was 60 minutes ago. No, it was not. Yeah, that's the one I listened to. It's Quarantine Radio with, I'm going to fuck up these names, Tyree, Wayno, and Ravi B. episode 7. It's fun. That show's really become a regular listen to me in the mornings. It's kind of just a good way to kind of, I don't know, reset and have some fun, goofy stuff to listen to first thing in the morning. Also, just hearing them call people and hear about people's daily lives right now is like a weird kind of comfort blanket for me. I don't know. I enjoy it a lot. So I definitely recommend that. But yeah, back to Severe MMA. A lot of really good talk about Cage Warriors and kind of their weird relationship with the UFC. And it's one of the podcasts that I would recommend if you're looking for a podcast that are focused on MMA content this week. They actually did a lot of talk about MMA, specifically around the Cage Warriors card. So if you're wanting stuff that doesn't focus as much on the fucking giant pandemic that's going on, you want a little bit more MMA talk, that's definitely one I'd recommend. On a kind of similar note, MMA on the Rocks, episode 182, was really solid. I would argue this is probably on my list, on my very short list so far of podcasts to catch this week. It's really good. Jeff starts out by reading some American Psycho, or talking about how he's reading American Psycho and how it's fucking up his social interactions, the little that he has. Which I thought was a lot of fun. They did mention also that evidently Ray Longo's show, MMA and Beyond, is on hiatus for the time being because they don't want to do it remotely with Manimal and Steve and everybody. So that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. I know Bill mentioned during that episode also he's trying to reach out and help them do it remotely if they want to, but it seems like for the time being they're not going to, so that's something to keep an eye on, because I can't imagine that's going to last. Either that show will die or they will start streaming, is my feeling on it so far, but who knows. Then they go into a lot of different, all their favorite old fights. So they just basically each came up with a list of all their favorite old fights, and they talk about them in detail. Everything from Hendo versus Wandy, geez, that's how I wrote it, so that's how I said it, but obviously I meant fucking Vanderlei, or Vandy, however you, I guess, you know what I meant. Chael versus Anderson 1, Forrest versus Bonner, Don Fry versus Takayama, obviously. I think everybody mentioned Don Fry versus Takayama this week in one fashion or another. Everybody from them to fucking Big John McCarthy, I believe, all mentioned it. Also, there's some real good Don Fry Chuck Norris jokes in that episode, so that's worth checking out for sure. But yeah, I really like that, so that's definitely worth listening to. Again, if you want some MMA-focused content that's less coronavirus-related, it's definitely one to go to. Aaron Bronstetter has debuted a new, I believe it's technically a Periscope show. I believe this is the second of 2 Periscope shows he's debuted this week. The first of which was Coffee and Combat. However, that one he had massive echo issues with his audio, and unfortunately they didn't catch it while he was recording, so I don't have that on my list as of yet because the echo is too brutal to get through. However, he did do another episode of a different format, which was a show he started called Various Meerschartists, where he and Gerald Meerschart, or GM3, they each basically, in each episode, they're going to recommend an album for each other to listen to and then talk about it. So in the first episode, Gerald Meerschart recommended Cooking with the Miles Davis Quintet, which you want to be one of my guys, as the CME would say. Fucking drop some Miles Davis references, and you are the top of my list to be one of my guys in MMA. God damn it. It's real good. Yeah, just a really good episode with him. And it's interesting hearing Gerald Meerschart talk about music. I believe he said he got a scholarship for playing sax and wanted to be a music instructor. You guys have probably seen all the videos he's doing on Twitter and everything of him doing fucking a bunch of weird sax solos with no shirt on that are all hilarious. But yeah, it was really cool. It was just a really cool episode, and I'm very excited to see what they have going forward. I'm trying to remember what the album that Aaron recommended Gerald listen to for the next episode was. I believe it's like Talk or something like that. I've never heard of it, but I'm definitely going to be listening to it tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. And yeah, that just seems, it's a very, I don't know if you could find 10 MMA fighters who could host a show like this with Aaron. So for it to be Gerald Meerschart and for him to have really solid takes on music and just really interesting discussions around it. I'm fucking so on board. So, highly recommend various Meerschartists. Weighing in, episode 45 was really good. I definitely liked that. They get off the rails like they tend to do. It's a little all over the place. They did mention a couple interesting things, though, one of which ties into, you guys probably just saw right before I went live, they started there was an announcement that Corey Sandhagen and Aljamain Sterling is in talks for UFC San Diego, which I don't know about everybody else, but being in San Diego and seeing how the city is treating things, pretty sure that card's not happening. Unless we have very drastic changes in the next 30 days, which it doesn't seem like we're going to, considering how full the beaches were here this weekend, including a bunch of people I know who were on Instagram with posting the go home logo or the stay home logo, but also while being at the beach surrounded by people. I don't know what that means. Shouts out to hot girls who don't live here but used to. Yeah, I'd be very surprised if that San Diego card happens. But what's interesting is on weighing in, they talked about how the UFC has two ways that the fighters get out of contracts. Either they fight out their fights, or they offer them fights and the fights don't happen, be it for a number of different reasons. It feels like, if I was to take a guess, I would think that the UFC is betting, because the rumor was for the longest time that Dominic Cruz was supposed to fight Corey Sandhagen on that card. That was the long-time rumor. I want to say Ariel reported it as the rumor, but I'm not positive. But that was definitely the one in discussion, and that's the rumor here in the city anyway. So my guess would be the UFC can already put Dom Cruz's contract on hold because of injury delays. So if you aren't confident the card goes forward, you then book a fight with Aljamain Sterling and Corey Sandhagen, so then you essentially guarantee, even if that fight doesn't happen, both of their contracts get delayed, and it gives you time to book fights without the timer ticking on their contract running out. So rather than booking Dom Cruz, who you already probably have an injury delay timer on because of his contract, you essentially get a free delay on someone's contract by not making it Dom Cruz. So maybe Dom Cruz is injured again, and we don't know about it, but my money would be on that may be why they booked that. I thought that was an interesting thing they brought up, and something to keep an eye on when you see the UFC continue to book fights on cards that are supposed to happen fairly soon. Keep an eye on those, because I feel like they're going to be very strategic, and I feel like a lot of them are going to be delaying contract negotiate. Like, I would not be surprised if we see a Paige Van Zandt rumor out there here shortly. Who are other people in weird contract situations with the UFC? Keep an eye out for future announcements, because there's probably a reason why, especially ones that are fairly short down the line like that, where that fight is less than 2 months out. Some to keep an eye on, because it seems kind of shady. After that, they talk about Josh Thompson and John McCarthy talk about their favorite one-round fights, which, of course, was a lot of fun. They talk about Fry versus Takayama, given. They talk about Diaz versus Daly, and a bunch of other wild ones. And, yeah, really, it was a fun episode. It definitely gets a little in the weeds. They debate whether or not the UFC actually needs money because all the profits going to Endeavor and all that. It's interesting, but it's not one of my favorite episodes of theirs, but I definitely recommend it. Oh boy, getting on to things that I'm not sure I recommend are these next two that I listened to, which is MMAJunkie episode 3037 or 3037. They're recording from home still, and they're finally, Gorgeous George specifically is finally starting to take this seriously, which crazy it took this long. But he's been talking about what fights are going to happen in the near future, like for the last couple episodes, which seems weird when literally all the casinos around you are closing, and they're fucking casinos in Vegas. Also, I don't know. This is right around skip level for me. They did have King Mo on towards the end of the episode, talking about March Madness getting called off, and for wrestling, obviously. and talking a little bit about Roger Mayweather's passing. I thought that was interesting. I definitely always enjoy hearing King Mo on stuff. Gorgeous George said some misty shit in this episode that, like, at one point he suggests fighters should be running or swimming to keep their cardio up. I don't know. It's a weird episode. It feels like, honestly, it feels like they're struggling to fill time. And that's always kind of been a thing with that show. But it's weird seeing it when they're not 5 days a week. Like, I can't imagine if they were doing 5 days a week right now. Holy fuck, would those shows be rough. So maybe that's good that they're not. I would honestly probably argue, I haven't listened to their, I don't know if they've put out a Triple G show this week, which is their Gorgeous George Goes show, which is the Patreon they do. I don't know if they put one of those out. I feel like those shows might be a little stronger than the straight MMAJunkie Radio shows. But yeah, just a weird feeling episode overall. And then the other weird feeling episode this week, Believe You Me, episode 209. Oh boy. You guys like conspiracies? Because Luis J. Gomez does. You guys want to talk about the military-industrial complex and people taking over cities? Luis J. Gomez sure does. And he brought all the guests on to support him. I don't know, man. Jason Perillo calls in. Shocking. Jason Perillo. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this without having people drive down from LA to try and fight me. Or Orange County, for that matter. You know what? I'll say what Bisping said towards the end of the episode. A lot of people, especially in the MMA sphere, who are really, really, really pushing to ignore all of the pandemic talk and saying everything's overblown and saying the media is blowing everything out of proportion and all that. Those are all people with very vested interests in making short-term money from fighting. And I think that sometimes gets lost in the conversation and we take what they're saying at face value, which is never the right way to do that. Especially when it comes to MMA. Because it's rarely what they're saying at face value is what they actually mean. I don't know. Jason Perillo talks about how he thinks everything's overblown. He's still training fighters at their houses. It's not great. Lewis does actually make a very, very strong comparison in this episode, though. Luis G. Gomez, I believe his name is. I just hate the middle name, the middle initial thing. There's only one person who gets a middle initial, and his name is Hunter. So we'll go ahead and keep on moving. But Lewis did make a really good comparison that he says it feels like a lot of Dana White's talk around UFC 249 is kind of similar to the way he was talking about Skankfest cancellations a few weeks ago before that happened. Which is interesting. I think that's a really apt comparison. So if you look back at Lewis's timeline, he was like, fucking media, this shit's gonna happen unless they shut us down completely. And then cut to Skankfest is canceled completely. So I thought that was interesting for sure. And it's you can tell Lewis is a comedian. Sorry, the Rona is getting me. You can tell Lewis is a comedian because he's at least processing the other side of the conversation, where he's like debating things that aren't being said vocally to him, but he can hear the internal dialogue of kind of like antithetical arguments. So I don't know. I thought it was interesting, kind of salient point from him about how Dana White might be kind of like just hoping out loud a lot in a lot of this stuff. Brett Okamoto called in after that. It was really good. Brett Okamoto, he does talk about how, by the way, Brett Okamoto's like, I've been ordering the Bisping lately. I don't know if fans know what the Bisping is at a bar, but it's when you get a shot and a beer. It's like, you mean what adults do, Brett? What adults do? They order a shot and a beer. I didn't know that's called the Bisping. We could also call that anyone who ever went to a comedy club. We could call that the fucking Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan doesn't even drink. That was a weird move. Also, you can tell Brett Okamoto does not drink. Sam Alvey calls in, just tripling down on being Sam Alvey. Man, it's boy. Laura Sanko calls in. Unfortunately, kind of triples down on the other shit also. It's weird. It's a weird episode. I don't know that I recommend it. It's interesting for sure. Don't know that I recommend it though. Boy, so let's see, where are we at? What else did I have? How long have we gone for? Wow, we are already way over the time frame I was giving myself. I fucking ramble, y'all. It is undoubted. I'm a verbose motherfucker, despite my best efforts. So quickly, I'll rattle off some shows I have planned for tomorrow to listen to. Anakin Florian, episode 242. A-Side Live Chat, which they recorded a rare Monday episode with Anthony Lionheart Smith, I believe. Co-Main Event Podcast, episode 394 that they put out today, where they talk about UFC 1. I'm actually going to go drink and watch UFC 1 after this, just because I think it'll be fun for that. The Man and the Myth, which is the podcast hosted by Sean Sheehan and... sorry, not Sean Sheehan. Sean Al-Shadi and the Man in the Hat, Chuck Mendenhall. They did a podcast called the Global Pause Awards. I have no idea what that's about, but I'm interested in it. DC and Helwani, episode 2 dropped today, in which DC explains how Ariel Helwani is black. Okay. I gotta listen to that. I'm curious to see how it goes. The Sixth Round Retro, which is the show where Eddie Mercado and Victor Rodriguez talk about old UFC cards. They did one for UFC 40 that I'm excited about. That should be really good. And Morning Combat with, I believe the title is Dana White and the Coronavirus. So that's what I planned so far as of 7:55 p.m. West Coast time on Monday. So that's what I listened to. Leave in the comments or hit us up on Twitter, TSOV Pod. Let me know what shows we slept on today, or if there's any that we should have listened to, because I'm more than happy to, for sure. And, yeah, in the meantime, I recommend everybody go listen to It's the Real Quarantine Radio, or Quarantine Radio, every day, because, man, it makes me feel better. It might make you feel better. So, all right, everybody, this has been fun. I'm excited to keep doing these on the regular. I am going to go sip on this beer, and I will see you tomorrow. I don't know if these are going to be a set time yet. My schedule is still really crazy because of some personal stuff that's going on in the last 2 days. 2 days? Yeah, I guess Saturday night or so. Anyway, my life's fucking chaos right now, like even more so than normal. So I will keep you guys updated. I promise I will be back at least for a quick update tomorrow. I'd like to do it around like 5:30 or 6 every day, but I don't know that that's going to be possible on a regular basis. So I will be doing. I'll try and schedule it ahead of time so that way you guys will get notifications if you hit the. I believe what Greg from How to Drink calls the ding dang dong bell gang or whatever the fuck it is. Hit the fucking bell on YouTube and it'll tell you when we're going live. But until tomorrow, y'all, have a good one. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what we're sleeping on. Bye.